But I
you
know
know,
that
and
on that tour that there were a few anxious, like I remember like literally right after the tour talking to Rick, and there was a few anxious moments for you due to like insulin and stuff like that. I don't mean to get too personal, but
I, yeah, no, I didn't really have any problems with it, but the whole thing was, you know, when it was organized, we were saying, okay, so yes, we'll come, yes, we'll tour. You know, we just kind of need to have some reliability, you know, and just a little structure. And there were times where that just didn't happen, you know, and it was kind of like, you know, like, oh man, you know, and you're in a foreign country, you know, you're not proficient in their language. Um, so there was some stuff like that where, you know, the stability and the reliability wasn't always there. So it did have some, you know, kind of some moments where it was like, oh man, we got to, like, you know, take care of this, or yeah.
so then you come back from that tour, and I think half off. I'm sorry, Haywire was pretty much over at that time. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then Freebass. Talk to me about Freebass. Like, was that kind of
Um,
a reaction? Okay, I've done bands with other guys. I just want to keep it lean and mean. Like, yeah, how does Freebass happen?
a couple different things, and I kind of forgot about this, but one of the first, and again, it was the half off humor. We would practice, and Billy would be like, I want to play bass. So I'd let him play bass, and we'd all like switch instruments. And, you know, we weren't like really that great at it. You know, Jim would play drums, and I think Vadim would sing, and maybe I'd play guitar or something. And we'd do, you know, No Pain, No Gain, because it was a very easy song.
Yep.
And then one day we're messing around like that, and Krishna is in the band at that time, and he was like, oh my gosh, he's like, we should do No Pain, No Gain, but everybody play bass like Spinal Tap. And, you know, and it's just like, yeah, that's funny. And so, you know, post Haywire, I'm just like, yeah, less is more. um yeah, why don't I do a band with just two basses that are just, you know, so um distorted, noisy, not bass, you know. um and I was friends with Steve, and Steve was, you know, eager to do bands, you know, do a band, and he had that very typical early band, uh, you know, timeline where, yeah, I think I'm going to jam with some guys, and they just didn't show up, and yeah, they're talking like they want to do it, but they can't get it together, and, you know, that struggle of finding like people who are actually going to do it. And, you know, so I saw that in Steve, and I'm like, yeah, and we were friends. You know, Steve and I again worked at Best. He was friends with Sterling, and he was very excited about playing bass, and a lot of the sounds that were happening. And again, a big influence like on Haywire, and, you know, Freebass was uh, PHC.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that you know, that bass sound just, you know, as soon as, you know, I saw that, I'm like, yep, getting a distortion box, you know. And so that was you know, like I said, that was a big thing. And Steve was into stuff like that. And then I thought, you know, well, maybe I'll just get a drum machine, you know. And so I finally started looking into it, and got a drum machine, and came up with, like, you know, two riffs or three songs or something. And Steve and I started rehearsing. And then eventually, after that, then I found out about, you know, like keyboards, and, you know, MIDI, being able to sequence everything together with just like a push of a button. So that was kind of like the musical thing. And again, I was, we were going to release something, and it never happened. But I really, really wanted to put a sticker like on the back of it that said, "As a guitar player, I found it to be an anti-guitar record." You know, like quote like Gavin.
Right, 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 right.
Like to totally parody the Black Flag album. And it didn't happen though. But that was kind of the thing. It was just like, again, very against, very just aggressive, assertive. So that was kind of the thing, and it was luckily people humored us, so
You you guys, in my opinion, and I look back, but even at that, like, you guys were ahead of your time. And a lot of that music, the sound, because it was all, because it was, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a whole industrial thing kind of happening
yeah,
within that.
and that yeah, and that was a big thing too. Different sounds, different types of music, different. It wasn't just like the early hardcore. We'd been listening to different things and experimenting with different music.
And why, like, okay, why didn't, because I want to say I heard you guys were supposed to have a 12-inch coming out. And why did that band end? Just because it's, I mean, if it was just you and Steve, like, it seemed like, wow, these guys could, because I just remember being at your shows and, like, the music was, like, harsh isn't the word. Like, the music was, like, just, it was like robotic, and you guys had like I just got the, I remember hearing the Palehead stuff after hearing Freebass and just being like, wow, like all this stuff is sort of like cosmically related, if I'm saying this correctly. Why, like, but what, like, why didn't Freebass continue? Just because it seemed like, wow, because I was doing a band at that time, and I remember like thinking like, wow, that's the best way to do a band. Less people, and you have a drum machine. You don't have to worry. There's no lugging equipment.
Yeah. It just kind of, we kept doing it and kept doing it. And then there was kind of a point where it was always difficult to get shows, because nobody was like knocking at the door going like, hey, I hear you guys don't have a guitar player or a drummer,
Right.
So that was one of the uphill battles, like all the time. And then it just kind of it went its way. And then at one point I even I started like playing with a group of guys, and the full circle of that is one of the guys that I was playing with at that time is the guitar player in Rick Greeno's current band, and they were like, yeah, we need a bass player, and wow, like, you're really cool, and, like, you got great sounds, and, and I was kind of excited about, I was like, hey, somebody wants me, woo, I'm in demand.
Right.
So, I kind of messed with that for a while, and then I stopped, and it just kind of, things just kind of stopped happening. It wasn't like an argument or any type of disillusion between Steve and myself. It just kind of stopped, and then I think I just kind of laid low after that for a while, and Steve started playing with some guys in I think it was in Chula Vista, and Mario.
Oh, Ashes Dust.
No,
No, it's different. Okay.
Well, I don't know. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a band with Mario and some guys from down there, and Steve used to, play with them. So, everybody kind of had something to do. Rick and I
Animal
did
Mother?
something. No, that was another thing.
Exit Wound?
Rick did. Exit Wound, yeah. Yeah. So that was like a little trio that Rick and I did with a guy we met like through the recycler, and we did like a demo. Rick has it. Rick has everything.